All right, today we're diving into an incredible story of rebellion, of mystery, and of one man who became a ghost that literally haunted the most powerful empire on Earth. So just imagine for a second, you're up against the British Empire in the 19th century. They're vast, they seem invincible. How on earth could you possibly win? Well, the answer is, you win by denying them their victory. You win by simply vanishing. And this is where our central figure comes in. A man who became a phantom, a living ghost, and a source of constant anxiety for the entire British colonial administration. I mean, for decades after the Great Rebellion of 1857, any report of him being seen somewhere would send the British into a complete panic. He was everywhere and nowhere at the same time, this constant nagging reminder that their power had limits. Okay, so let's get into it. Who exactly was this guy, Nana Saheb, and why was an entire empire so obsessed with finding it? So, his birth name was actually Dhondu Pant, but what you need to know is he was the adopted son of the last emperor of the Great Maratha Empire. So to his people, he wasn't just some nobleman, he was the legitimate heir, a sovereign in waiting. But you see, the British had this political tool, you could call it, that was perfect for a situation like this. It was called the Doctrine of Lapse. And basically, it said that if a ruler died without a direct biological son, their kingdom would just be absorbed or annexed by the British. And because Nana Saheb was adopted, they used this doctrine to strip him of his titles and his pension. And you have to understand, this was way more than just a personal insult. It was a massive political statement. The British were basically saying that Indian traditions around who gets to be king were invalid. It was a direct attack on Indian sovereignty itself. So you can see where this is going, right? When rebellion exploded across India in 1857, Nana Saheb didn't see it as just a mutiny. Oh no. For him, this was a full-blown war to restore Indian rule and take back what was stolen. And this really gets to the heart of how this whole conflict is remembered. The British, of course, called it the Sepoy Mutiny, making it sound like a small internal problem. But for Nana Saheb and millions of Indians, it was the first war of independence, a fight for what they called Swaraj, or self-rule. Now, after some early successes for the rebels, the British forces, they regrouped and started pushing back hard. And facing these just overwhelming odds, Nana Saheb made a decision that would define his entire legacy. And this is absolutely crucial. This wasn't him running away in a panic. It was a calculated, strategic withdrawal. He knew that being captured and put on a show trial would just play right into the British narrative. By disappearing, he could keep the spirit of the rebellion alive. He could become a symbol they could never extinguish. The British were desperate. Really desperate to find him. So they put a bounty on his head of 100,000 rupees. To put that in perspective, in the mid-19th century, this was an absolutely astronomical sum of money, a life-changing fortune. And here's what's just incredible about this whole thing. Despite that massive reward, despite the danger of hiding him, not a single person ever turned him in. That silence, that loyalty from everyday people, wow, it just speaks volumes, doesn't it? Just think for a second about what he was up against. The British Empire threw everything it had at finding him. The most advanced intelligence network of the time, a continent-spanning web of spies, and a fortune in bounty money, the whole shebang. And what was the result of all that power, all that money, all those spies? Complete and utter failure. They simply could not find him. So what in the world actually happened to him? Well, his disappearance basically created this mystery that people still talk about today. And it boils down to two really compelling theories about how he spent his final years. Okay, so the first theory is that he managed to escape into the dense jungles of Nepal. And there, far beyond the empire's reach, he eventually died of a fever, but he died a free man. The second theory, which is maybe even more amazing, is that he secretly returned to India and lived for decades disguised as a holy man protected by an entire town that knew his real identity. But here's the thing, and this is the real takeaway. It almost doesn't matter which story is true, because the crucial common thread, the real victory in both scenarios, is that the British never got him. And that right there is why this story is so important. By vanishing, by refusing to be caught, he won his final and maybe his most important battle.
See, the British Empire ran on more than just guns. It ran on spectacle. Public trials and executions were how they showed everyone who was boss and instilled fear. Capturing and hanging a leader like Nana Saheb, that would have been the ultimate symbol of their dominance. And he denied them that. He robbed them of their ending.
By evading what was probably the largest manhunt of its time, he sent a message that was loud and clear. You can fight us, you can even defeat our armies, but you can never, ever capture our will to be free. And that's his legacy. He isn't remembered as a fugitive who ran away. He's remembered as a sovereign who made a strategic choice, who lived and died on his own terms, completely unbowed by the mightiest empire in the world. Which leaves us with this one big question to chew on. We always hear that history is written by the victors, but the story of Nana Saheb, well, it shows us that sometimes the greatest victory lies in disappearing from their narrative altogether, leaving behind not a story of defeat, but a legacy of mystery and an unconquered spirit.